When it comes to TV, you can't get too attached. Shows are being cancelled left and right in 2024. If you're a fan of any of the programs on this list, I'm sorry to say that they've seemingly ended for good.
No, God! No, God, please, no! No!
Some jobs are easier to do under the influence than others. You might be able to get away with it if you're a bartender or a YouTube channel host. But the worst job to show up intoxicated to is almost certainly bomb diffuser. That's the central idea behind Obliterated, a Netflix series about a special ops team called to serve their country at a pretty inconvenient moment. After disarming a bomb threatening to blow up Las Vegas, 7 US government operatives celebrate their success by throwing the rager of a lifetime. The only problem? They didn't actually stop the right bomb, meaning that they have to get back to work while fighting off the various inebriations.
You see, this is why I don't drink.
Oh, good for you, Paul. We should all be so f***ing boring.
It's a funny concept, and with the creative team responsible for the relatively long-running Cobra Kai at the helm, it seems like a perfect candidate for a second season. Unfortunately for the show's cast, crew, and fans, it was officially cancelled in February 2024. The makers of the show seem to have hoped for a second season more than anyone else, as co-creator John Hurwitz told Inverse before getting the bad news, "If there's a demand for it, we're certainly going to be looking for that next party city where our team could get into mischief and have another adventure." His fellow co-creator Hayden Schlossberg agreed, saying, "It's the White Lotus of action comedies." Sadly, Netflix's standard for comedy is apparently higher than that. For those keeping track at home, Fuller House, 5 seasons. Obliterated, 1. Make it make sense. Throwing a hapless dork into a dangerous world is a tried and true recipe for comedy. The Jerk, Elf, Me versus a YouTube comments, and the Hulu original This Fool riffs on the concept by dropping comedian Chris Estrada into South Central LA. As a social worker, Estrada's character Julio Lopez works with ex-cons as part of the rehab program Hugs Not Thugs. And now that his cousin has become a free man after 8 years in jail, the two are about to become a whole lot closer, whether they'd like it or not.
Hey, for real though, why does your body still look 19, but your face looks 56, fool?
Yep.
Frankie Quinones plays Luis, Julio's abrasive cousin, and Michael Imperioli of The Sopranos and The White Lotus fame rounds out the cast as a foul-mouthed minister. This Fool took the streaming comedy world by storm during its debut year of 2022. Critics loved the show and its unique point of view, and it ended up on best of lists in outlets from The New Yorker to Collider. Quinones was even nominated for an Independent Spirit Award. This Fool packed tons of talent on screen and off. Fred Armisen produced the series and made a cameo appearance, and plenty of other actors made one-off appearances as well. But sadly, none of the show's heart and high-level talent could save it from cancellation after 2 seasons. This Fool loved This Fool, but those fools at Hulu cancelled This Fool despite the hashtag #SaveThisFool trending on social media, and now it seems that the show is gone for good. After spending 12 seasons surrounded by emotionally stunted geeks on The Big Bang Theory, Kaylee Cuoco decided it was time for a change in scenery. She was quick to move on to The Flight Attendant, a show with more murder, sex, and intrigue than Sheldon Cooper could ever imagine. But hope for a 3rd season was shot down for good in 2024. Cuoco's character Cassandra Bowden, the flight attendant herself, wakes up in a hotel one morning to find a dead man next to her in bed. That leads her down a violent yet sexy rabbit hole. So in other words, classic HBO.
I gotta shower.
Okay.
No, not in a fun way. Sorry, I think you gotta go, because I gotta leave. But thank you for the effort.
The service, formerly known as HBO Max, announced the show's Season 2 renewal the day after the Season 1 finale. The show received 9 Emmy nominations for its first outing, and Season 2 released in spring 2022. The official announcement that the show was over for good came in January 2024, but an unofficial one came a bit earlier. After Season 2 came to a close, Cuoco told People, "I think for me at this moment, the plane has landed." It's a classic horror movie formula. A couple goes for a hike in the woods, only to find terrifying beings lurking amongst the trees. What's scarier than encountering a horde of monsters or a cannibal cult though? Musicals!
Nobody gets killed in a musical, except Oklahoma, and Carousel, and South Pacific. Oh, hello, West Side Story.
That's all the musicals.
In the Apple TV Plus show Schmigadoon. It's like a tongue twister. Cecily Strong and Keegan-Michael Key find themselves trapped in a little town inspired by Golden Age musicals until they can find true love, whatever that might look like. Season 2 sees the couple search for their happy ending in Schmigadoon, a seedy, sexy world inspired by musicals of the 1960s and 1970s. Unfortunately, Schmigadoon got straight up schmanceled after that. The decision was made despite the program's show-stopping cast. No pun intended. That includes Ariana DeBose, Dove Cameron, Kristen Chenoweth, Alan Cumming, and more. Even though Season 3 was already written, Apple still decided to pull the plug. Some have speculated that the third season might have been based on the Andrew Lloyd Webber musicals of the 1980s, but we won't be seeing Jane Krakowski as a singing cat anytime soon. Probably. Show co-creator and songwriter Cinco Paul wrote on Instagram, "The season is written, including 25 new songs, but we unfortunately won't be making it. The optimist in me is convinced it's not the end of Schmigadoon, and maybe it's even a happy beginning. Could we see Schmigadoon the Schmovie or Schmigadoon live on stage? The possibilities are schmenless, but for now, it looks like the curtains have, dare I say, closed." Paramount Plus seems to really have a thing for teenage werewolves. The streaming service released Teen Wolf the movie on January 26th, 2023. And that very same day, they also debuted their new series, Wolfpack. It makes a little more sense when you learn that both projects were spearheaded by a single person, writer and producer Jeff Davis. Say what you will, but the man found an untapped genre and tapped the hell out of it. Respect. So what does Wolfpack have that Teen Wolf doesn't? The answer is simple. Sarah Michelle Gellar.
An incredibly powerful supernatural predator. Part human, part wolf. A werewolf.
Temper your expectations though. Buffy isn't back. Then curb stomp your expectations because this show got cancelled after a single 8-episode season, even though it ended with a massive cliffhanger. It's still not clear why the decision was made. Gellar, also an executive producer, told The Hollywood Reporter that there were plans for season 2. Many outlets have speculated that production delays due to strikes contributed to the streamer's decision. Edo Van Belkom, the author of the book the show adapted, posted to X, "I feel more for the young actors and others who felt this was going to be their big break." Given Jeff Davis's creative history, one can only assume he has another 9 or 10 werewolf projects lined up to take its place. Hopefully. Journey to the West is perhaps the most iconic mythological tale in Chinese literary history, and has been adapted countless times into movies, shows, and other mediums. American-born Chinese attempted to show off the story to younger Western audiences, but they only got one season to do so. The series follows average Chinese-American teen Jin Wang as he tries to lay low and fit in at school, but the arrival of a new student forces him to change his plans.
Well, this is Wayne Chung.
Wei Chen.
He's a new student and he's Chinese, like you.
Okay.
Sun Wei-chun is loud, proud of his identity, and the son of the mythological Monkey King himself, Sun Wukong. Wei-chen pulls Jin into a quest full of prophecies, dreams, and epic encounters with Chinese legends that happen to look awfully familiar. With Michelle Yeoh, Ki Hu Kwan, James Hong, and Stephanie Su all in the cast, you'd be forgiven for thinking that American-born Chinese was just a cheap attempt to capitalize off of the popularity of Everything Everywhere All at Once. However, the show was shot before Everything Everywhere actually hit theaters and became a massive success. While American-born Chinese was a hit with critics, Disney Plus cancelled the show in 2024. According to Variety, sources close to the production claim that viewership wasn't high enough to continue producing such an expensive show. The series never broke into any Nielsen top 10 rankings, but neither have I, and I haven't been cancelled yet. 2024 hasn't been the best year for Michelle Yeoh so far. Not long after Disney pulled the plug on American-born Chinese, Netflix followed suit by scrapping the comedy drama crime series The Brother's Son, a mere 2 months after it premiered. The life of Californian student Bruce Sun is turned upside down after an assassin targets his family. Unbeknownst to him, the Suns are triads operating out of Taiwan, and now Bruce has to learn how to be a gangster with the help of his mom and older brother Charles.
Charles, go get changed. We gotta get rid of the body. Bruce, go to bed. You got a test tomorrow.
The Brother's Son was praised by critics for its strange yet captivating combination of family bonding and brutal violence, but the show never had much of a chance to establish a following since it was cancelled so quickly. After the news dropped, Yo posted on Instagram, "Heartbroken, and finding it so hard to understand why. However, I am so very proud of my Brother's Son family and what was presented to the world." Let me stop the video for a second. Netflix, if there's ever a violent action comedy starring Michelle Yeoh, feel free to put it in my suggestions for you, cause that sounds badass and I had no idea this show existed. Julia Child is one of the most fascinating figures of the 20th century. Before she started the cooking programs that made her famous, she worked for a spy agency during World War II and helped make experimental shark repellent. That's not covered in the Max series Julia, but if it was, it might have lasted for more than 2 seasons. Julia follows the iconic host as she develops the French chef into a show beloved by millions. The immaculately designed period piece was created by Daniel Goldfarb of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel fame, and stars British TV legend Sarah Lancashire as Child herself.
Well, maybe TV's not a fad.
Good Lord, it has to be. I know I'll never buy one.
While most of the storylines on Julia are drawn directly from Child's memoirs, the show definitely takes some creative license with its characters. It's mostly a gentle and comforting dramedy, but it didn't make it to season 3. The cancellation announcement came in January 2024, along with a slew of other shows that Max was slicing from its roster. Still, Julia thankfully remains on Max to be discovered and celebrated by foodies and Child fans. That is until Warner Bros. Discovery decides to delete it from its streaming library entirely. Nurse Ratched, the world's most intimidating healthcare professional, started out as a terrifying antagonist of Ken Kesey's 1962 novel, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, before becoming a pop culture icon thanks to the 1975 film adaptation. After that, decades passed for the character with no remake or reboot in sight, until Ryan Murphy got his hands on her. The producer responsible for Glee and American Horror Story brought Nurse Ratched back to life, and since this is Ryan Murphy we're talking about, she simply had to be played by Sarah Paulson. Ratched follows the infamous nurse at an earlier stage of her career, as she goes from slightly sweet but still evil to just straight up evil.
You are not sorry, but you will be.
Big things were expected for Ratched from the beginning. Back in 2017, Netflix had reportedly set the show up for 2 seasons. The show premiered in 2020 at the #1 spot in the Nielsen ratings, but then COVID-19 hit. In 2022, Paulson told Variety she wasn't sure if there would be a season 2 of Ratched after all. And in 2023, Murphy set his sights on jumping ship from Netflix for a new deal with Disney. In February 2024, Paulson finally confirmed that there will be no more Ratched. R.P. McMurphy would sure be glad to hear that. When Issa Rae ended her breakout show Insecure in 2021, fans and critics were eagerly awaiting her next outing as producer and writer. They didn't have to wait long, as it premiered on HBO Max less than a year later. Ratched revolves around 2 former childhood friends who reconnect as adults and ultimately form a rap duo that takes the world by storm. Well, part of the world.
Is you rapping about student loans? As. Technically, I'm rapping as the student loans. Why would I want our song to be about that?
Alongside Ida Osman and Chameleon as essential characters Shauna and Mia, rappers and producers like Timbaland, Guapdad 4000, and Brent Faiyaz make appearances as themselves. Unfortunately though, that wasn't enough to keep rap going for more than 2 seasons. After the show's cancellation notice hit in January 2024, Ray told Porter, "You're seeing so many black shows get cancelled. You're seeing so many executives, especially on the diversity, equity, and inclusion side, get canned. It's made me take more steps to try to be independent down the line if I have to." Despite the circumstances, we definitely haven't seen the last of Issa Rae. Minx is a show so nice it got cancelled twice. The 70s set series tracks the unlikely rise of a Playboy-style magazine geared toward women, starring Ophelia Lovibond as the magazine's feminist creator and Jake Johnson as her smarmy yet sweet publisher.
Do you even understand what it is I'm trying to do here?
Of course I do. Feminism, making fair and equal for the chicks.
After initially renewing the series in 2022, HBO Max changed course and decided to cancel it instead. It seems like the end, but Starz swooped in to give it another shot. Fans fantasized about Minx getting 6 seasons and a movie, but after a single season on their network, Starz had also seen enough. In 2023, Johnson told Deadline he was doubtful Minx would be saved again. As he put it, "I think the move to Starz, I think HBO kind of doing their HBO thing, or HBO Max, whatever it's called now, I think that was brutal for the show. My guess is you can't beat something up that many times and keep going." Sure enough, Minx ended up getting cancelled again in January of 2024. This is the big one you've probably been waiting for. Despite amassing a passionate fan base and great reviews from critics, Our Flag Means Death was cancelled after its season 2 finale. Why? No reason, just apparently the executives at Max hate joy.
Hang on, that's passive aggression.
Starring Rhys Darby as the gentleman pirate Stede Bonnet and Taika Waititi as the infamous Blackbeard, Our Flag Means Death was a silly pirate comedy about dismantling toxic masculinity and tapping into the power of love that came out of nowhere and ended just as quickly. Created by David Jenkins and populated by an all-star comedy cast, the show managed to be romantic, heartbreaking, and hilarious. Nevertheless, in January 2024, Max announced that the show would not return. At least not on their service. Fans didn't take the news lying down. Some of them raised enough money to pay for a billboard in Times Square, asking for a renewal. After seeing the billboard, Jenkins posted on Instagram, "This is truly the best fandom. I am speechless. You make me feel like I belong to something."
What if it's not a death? What if life just begins again?
It's quite possible that a different network could pick up Our Flag Means Death in the future. But unfortunately for the show's devotees, there hasn't been any news on that front. Until then, we'll all just have to make do with the 2 existing seasons. As fans of Pushing Daisies and Mindhunter, understand the pain.